The longer I use the Tecno Spark Slim, the more I realize just how incredible it is to have a very thin phone at this price that still works just fine for most people. And that might sound like a simple statement, but coming from someone who's spoiled by more expensive, faster phones, that realization actually surprised me. Because despite the limited performance in paper, I found myself wanting to use the Spark Slim more and more as a secondary or backup phone. Not because it's powerful, not because it's feature packed, but because if your phone usage is mostly streaming, entertainment, and social media, the Spark Slim delivers all of that in a thin, light package that somehow keeps pulling you back. There's something about it that makes you want to pick it up again. Before we go any further, if you're interested, you can check the links below for more information, including possible discount codes. And if you're new to the channel, welcome, I'm Renzo, and we showcase interesting tech gadgets here. Alright, let's get the biggest limitation out of the way first: performance. This is not a phone for anyone chasing the fastest performance for the lowest price possible. This is not a gaming phone either. If you're expecting flagship-like speed or buttery smooth high-refresh gaming, this isn't the phone for you. And Tecno isn't pretending that it is. The Spark Slim runs on the MediaTek Helio G200 with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. On paper, that might look fine, and in practice, it really depends on where you're coming from. If you're upgrading from a low entry-level phone, you will feel the difference immediately. Scrolling through social media feels smoother, apps load faster, switching between apps is more reliable, even basic multitasking feels less frustrating. For someone coming from a phone with 4GB or 6GB of RAM and slower storage, the Spark Slim feels like a genuine upgrade. 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage still feel plenty in that context. But if you're someone like me, someone who already owns better spec phones, the limitations become obvious very quickly. Animations don't always keep up. The 144Hz display doesn't feel like it's being fully utilized. There are moments where transitions feel closer to 90Hz than anything near 144Hz. And yet, here's the interesting part. Despite knowing all of that, I still found room for the Spark Slim in my daily routine. As a secondary phone, it actually makes a lot of sense. If you don't want to drain the battery on your main phone, if you want to separate personal and work usage, or if you simply want a backup phone that's reliable enough for everyday tasks, the Spark Slim is capable of filling that role. As long as you're not playing graphics heavy games, there's definitely room for this phone in your other pocket. And that brings me to the real reason why the Spark Slim works so well as a backup phone: the design. I have held both the iPhone Air and the Tecno Spark Slim, and despite the iPhone Air being around 0.3mm thinner, the Spark Slim somehow feels significantly thinner in the hand. I think part of that comes down to the curved design, both on the front glass and the back panel. The way the phone tapers into your palm makes it feel slimmer than the numbers suggest. And the back material deserves a mention here too. Tecno uses fiberglass, which is essentially fiber reinforced plastic using glass fiber. But in day-to-day use, it doesn't feel like plastic at all. It feels like frosted glass. Honestly, I think we're already at a point where it's hard to distinguish what material manufacturers are using in the back of their phones, unless you do a scratch test or the drop test. In normal use, this feels premium enough. For someone like me who uses several phones every single day, that exciting feeling of holding a slim phone never really went away. Even after 60 days, it still feels different every time I pick it up. It almost feels like I'm holding a new phone again, simply because it doesn't feel like most phones on the market. The mood light design of the camera hump is another small but fun detail. Is it essential? No. Is it life-changing? Definitely not. But it adds personality. You can set it up to light when charging, when you receive notifications or calls, when activating the voice assistant, or even as a low battery reminder. I left it on pretty much all the time, and surprisingly, it didn't hurt battery life as much as I expected. Which brings us to the battery performance. Despite being incredibly thin, the Spark Slim packs a 5160 mAh battery, and in real-world use, it's been very solid. On most days, I was getting at least 7 hours of screen on time, with around 20 to 25% left before dinner time. That's with social media, streaming videos, messaging, and occasional camera use. For a phone this thin, that's impressive. Charging is also decently fast at 45 watts. You can go from empty to full in 57 minutes. There's no wireless charging, but you do get reverse wired charging if you ever need to power up another device. And yes, you do get bypass charging if you need that too. As a backup phone, battery life is one of the most important things, and the Spark Slim delivers here. Now let's talk about the cameras. You only get a single 50 megapixel camera on the back and a 30 megapixel camera on the front. And honestly, the cameras are usable at best. but at least they are not bad. In good lighting, especially outdoors, you can get decent sharpness and acceptable colors. Dynamic range is okay, and detail is good enough for social media. Video tops out at 2K 30 FPS on both front and back, but there's no stabilization unless you drop down to 1080p. There's also no ultra wide here, so you're limited in framing options. It's very clear that the cameras had to take a step back to make way for better design, and while that's a compromise, it's one that makes sense given the price and the goal of this phone. Again, context matters. If you're coming from an entry level phone, you will actually appreciate the improvement in photo and video quality across the board. It's not flagship level by any means, but it's good enough for everyday moments. Now, something I did not expect to be decent on a phone this thin is the sound quality. Typically, with slim phones, you sacrifice speaker performance. And while there is some bass reduction here, you still get a speaker at the bottom and another at the top. Loudness is above average for the size, and clarity is surprisingly good. Watching videos, streaming shows, or even just listening to podcasts doesn't feel compromised. It's not going to replace a proper speaker, but for a slim phone, it holds up well. And thankfully, and I really mean thankfully, Tecno did not make this display bad. This is a genuinely great panel. You get a large 6.78-inch AMOLED display that somehow still feels compact to navigate. Brightness goes up to 1600 nits in max brightness mode and peaks at 4500 nits in HDR, and in real world use, it never felt lacking. Even when I was using it side by side with more expensive phones like the Xiaomi 14 or the Poco F7 Ultra, the Spark Slim's display didn't feel out of place. Colors are vibrant, contrast is excellent, and outdoor visibility is solid. Yes, it's curved, and that's not for everyone. Some people hate curved displays, others love them. Personally, I did not experience any accidental touches, and the curve actually adds to that slim in the hand feeling. The only real asterisk here is the refresh rate. It supports up to 144Hz, but whether it's because of the weak chipset or the way the software is tuned for this model, it rarely feels like it's actually running at 144Hz. In practice, it feels closer to 90Hz most of the time. Is it a deal breaker? Not really, but is it noticeable if you're used to faster phones? After 60 days with the Tecno Spark Slim, I think I finally understand who this phone is for. This isn't a phone that tries to win spec sheets. It's not trying to be the fastest, the most powerful, or the most feature packed. Instead, it focuses on something most budget phones completely ignore: design and feel. And because of that, it ends up being more memorable than a lot of phones in this price range. For its price, Tecno made a phone that feels premium, looks unique, lasts all day, and works well enough for most people's daily needs. Sure, performance is limited, cameras are just okay, but the experience as a whole makes sense. If you want a thin, light phone for media consumption, social media, messaging, and everyday tasks, the Spark Slim delivers. If you want a reliable backup phone that doesn't feel cheap or boring, this is one of the best options out there. So yeah, the longer I use the Tecno Spark Slim, the more I appreciate what Tecno did here. It's not perfect, it's not for everyone, but it proves that even in 2025 and entering 2026, design still matters. And sometimes that alone is enough to make a phone worth using. If you want to check it out, the links are below. But that's it for this one. Drop a sub or like if you feel like supporting the channel. And as always, until the next one, stay safe.